Let's discuss all things Game Week 24 double game week. We're going to be talking about my transfer plans going into Game Week 23 and how I'm preparing for Game Week 24, because all our transfers now are kind of getting built, and definitely we're all looking towards this double game week for Liverpool and Everton. And what we're going to do, we're going to be playing the assistant manager chip. Could we be playing the triple captain? I mean, not for me personally, but could somebody else be playing the triple captain who actually has the triple captaincy chip? I'm going to be talking everything around that double game week and how we are going to be preparing for it. So what better way is there to start things off by talking about Mohamed Salah? By the way, if you're not subscribed, do subscribe to the channel. If you wouldn't mind doing that, it takes 1 second. If you like FPL content, do hit subscribe and drop a like while you're down there as well. It'd be very much appreciated. But Mohamed Salah, we'll have to start off by talking about, is it worth a triple captaincy on Mohamed Salah? Obviously, his double game week fixtures are Bournemouth and Everton. You've got to be thinking about this because obviously we've got that assistant managership as well, and ideally you would probably want to be using, if you've got all your chips available, you would want to be using one of your chips, because like there's not that many double game weeks this season. There's going to be obviously this double game week in 24, which is only for Liverpool and Everton. We're then blanking in game week 29. We're going to then get a double game week in around 34, and then then there's a double game week also as well in game week 36 as well, something around them lines anyway. So there's going to be 3 double game weeks, and we need to be using our chips because we've still got bench boost, free hit, obviously then triple captain if people have it, and then assistant manager chip as well. You've got a lot to, and a wildcard in there as well. There's a lot of chips, so you are going to be really be needing to use a chip this week, either most likely your assistant manager chip or your triple captain if you do have that. So what's better in my opinion now? A lot depends on what's going to happen in this Ipswich game. We'll see how Liverpool perform and see how they get on, because in recent weeks Liverpool have been struggling. A blank for Mo Salah against Brentford, a blank against Nottingham Forest, a penalty goal against United, and he also didn't score in the Carabao Cup against Spurs in the first leg of that Carabao Cup game. But Ipswich are home next. I think he's going to be heavily captained this week. It's going to be him between Salah and Isak, and a lot of them are going to back Salah due to the fact that Salah's playing at home to Ipswich. So we have to see how he gets on. I think hopefully he will regain our trust ahead of that Ipswich game. So for me, if Mohamed Salah scores against Ipswich, if I have my triple captaincy chip, I am 100% just not even thinking about it. Not bothering with the assistant managership until the end of the season, most likely maybe double game week 36 to 38. I would most likely be putting my triple captaincy chip on Mohamed Salah and just going for it, because even though it's not the 2 best fixtures, Bournemouth and Everton, they're not absolutely terrible fixtures. Salah scored goals in the derby before and against Bournemouth as well. It's not an awful fixture. Bournemouth have got a lot of injuries right now. Obviously, it's not ideal. You would have preferred the double game to maybe be in 25 when they've got Wolves. But as I say, there's not a massive amount of opportunities with a lack of double game weeks this season. And with the assistant managership as well, it throws another spanner in the works in terms of you've got to use another chip. So for me, I'd be getting my triple captaincy out of the way on Mohamed Salah and using it in that game at 24, depending on how he plays against Ipswich, and if he gets on well, if he looks good against Ipswich and he looks like he's absolutely not completely finished like he has in the last 2 games, then I'd say he's definitely using the triple captaincy chip is probably the best way for me in my opinion. As for the assistant manager chip, people actually need to consider that you have got to spend, if you are going to get on his slot, as a lot of people might do for the assistant manager chip, you have got to get 1.5 million. So you are probably going to have to make a downgrade in your team. It could be going from getting rid of one of your premium defenders, maybe like Gabriel if you have him, or a David Raya if you have him, because a lot of people still own Arsenal defenders. Or it could be even downgrading a midfielder down to somebody, or even a forward down to somebody as well, around the kind of 7 million, 8 million price tag. If you've got a Nicholas Jackson, you can maybe downgrade him down to, say, somebody like a joao wissa. So then you can then get your use your assistant manager chip, or you can maybe downgrade into like a joao pedro or someone. But we're not spoiled for choice. The assistant manager chip, using it on Arne's slot, as I say, it throws a spanner in the works. That 1.5 million price tag is hefty. Like, you are going to have to make a downgrade in your team. And then the problem is with slot as well, you have got, obviously, the double game week, which is great in game week 24, but you have then got in game week 26, you've got Man City. So you might have to then make a manager transfer if you don't back City. If you don't back Liverpool against City, obviously we'll know more information on how City are doing and how Liverpool are getting on by the time it gets to game week 26. But you don't, not in an ideal world, you don't really want to be having your assistant manager chip with 1.5 million on Arne slot, who's playing against Man City. As for David Moyes, it actually is quite an interesting one. He is the cheapest assistant manager you can get at 0.5 million. Everton's double game week obviously consists of Liverpool and Leicester as well, and then after that they have got Crystal Palace away and then Man United at home, which it's all right, it's not bad, but you can back Everton for getting a result against United, but then you also got to think United are only a couple of places above Everton in the table, which means you're not even going to get extra points for that, and I feel like the extra points for getting a win against a team that's 5 places ahead of you could be very beneficial. You get a lot more points for that. And you don't get that with Man United. You don't get that with Crystal Palace. And you'd say that Crystal Palace would be the favourites against Everton. And you'd say United would really be the favourites against Everton, even though I would probably back Everton to get a result there. And then you've got Leicester at home, which is a very good fixture. Obviously, you don't get the extra points, but it's a good fixture. Everton will be the favourites for that game. The only game where you can really make up big points in a game if something went right for you is the Liverpool game. So you'd be backing Everton to pick up a result in the derby against Liverpool, which is definitely possible, but you would have to say it's unlikely given the fact that Liverpool just are the best team in the league. So as I say, that definitely throws a spanner in the works to the assistant manager's chip, because you got, as I say, you got to get that 1.5 million. But if, with David Moyes, it's only 0.5 million. You might not need to even make a downgrade. You might have 0.5 spare in your budget anyway, and then you can just bring in David Moyes without actually having to like rearrange your team and use transfers and do all that kind of nonsense. You can just go for David Moyes and stick with it. But as I say, the fixtures for Everton, bar that Leicester game, isn't really too ideal. As I say, not a great chance for winning against Liverpool, and then you've not got big points against Crystal Palace and Man United, despite the fact that Everton could potentially pick up results. As for more players to own ahead of the double game, you need to be really having a triple Liverpool if you're not going to be going for Arne slot. If you're going for Arne slot, you can only have 2 Liverpool players as well. It's definitely worth noting. So for me, the number one player is of course Mo Salah. We've already spoken about him earlier. Trent Alexander-Arnold is an interesting one. Now, if you have a look at this, Liverpool's fixtures, obviously, they have a lot of games coming up with the Champions League and the Premier League with the FA Cup as well. So Liverpool double game week is actually split up into 2 fixtures, with being the Bournemouth game and the Everton game being actually 12 days apart. Now, Liverpool do have 2 games in between that. They have obviously the first game in the double game week against Bournemouth away on the 1st of February. Then they play Tottenham in the second leg of the Carabao Cup, and then they play Plymouth in the 4th round of the FA Cup, and then they have that Everton game on the night on the 12th of February. So it's definitely something that you need to be taking note of, because a lot of people have been saying that Trent might not be able to play both of the double game week games, which is valid, but I can see him getting rested in the Champions League game against PSV, because Liverpool will already be through by then. I think it'll be Conor Bradley starting in that game. Then in the Bournemouth game, it'll be, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold. You'd expect him to start the game against Bournemouth. Then you've got the Carabao Cup then in the midweek, which it's not like Trent can't play 2 games in a week. I think he'll start the game against Spurs in the Carabao Cup. And then on the Saturday, Liverpool then play Plymouth in the FA Cup. And that's where Conor Bradley will surely come in. So I think it'll be Conor Bradley who plays the game against PSV in the Champions League before. Then Trent will play in the Bournemouth game. Then Conor Bradley will be... then it'll be Trent again, actually, in the Carabao Cup against Spurs in the second leg, because that's an important game. And then in the 4th round of the FA Cup, Liverpool will rotate again. And then you'd imagine Trent will play. And you can kind of guess the kind of minutes that they'll get between the attackers as well. But just talking about Trent individually, I think he will play both of the Premier League games in the double game week. And for me, he's the best defensive option. He can come in with big points. He got a double points haul in the last game week, and then a few game weeks away came in with a 15-pointer as well. So Trent has definitely got the potential. He also drops stinkers as well, by the way. He is very frustrating to own. But there's no doubt in my mind that as a Liverpool defender, Trent Alexander-Arnold is the number one Liverpool asset. As from an Everton perspective, this is an interesting one. You could go for Jordan Pickford, or you could also go for Alisson. Alisson, you get them guaranteed minutes in the Liverpool goal. And, you know, if you're bringing in the Liverpool players ahead of this week, you've got Ipswich at home as well, which is nice. And it's such a good run of fixtures now for Liverpool when you look at it. They've got the double game week 24, and then you've got Wolves game week 25, and then you've got Ipswich this week as well. It's good. You've got to have 3 Liverpool players this week. There's no doubt about it. But if you're not interested in going for Alisson, you want to go for the outfielders of Liverpool, then Jordan Pickford in goal for me is the number one Everton asset. I've got Pickford in my personal team. He's been disappointing since I brought him in all fairness, but David Raya hasn't been much better either. But as I say, the double game week for Everton, there's not too many Everton assets that are like, you have to like jump on, that are really like standout options. Obviously, they impressed against Spurs last game, which definitely makes it a conversation for players like NGI and Calvert-Lewin up front. NGI, obviously, and Calvert-Lewin both being very cheap forwards. Calvert-Lewin, they're only scoring 1 in 16 games now, that is. And then NGI has been pretty decent, to be fair, getting a goal as well against Spurs, and he's played pretty well over the course of the season so far. But Jordan Pickford, for me, is the number one Everton asset. I will be going for him personally. He will be in my personal team. So the conversation is, do people go for maybe a double Liverpool defence and just go for Mo Salah, obviously, or do they go for an attacker? Now, there's Konate, there's Van Dijk, there's a few different players. You can't really be going for Trent Alexander-Arnold and Van Dijk. You're spending just too much money, realistically. So it could be a Trent and Konate. Konate, he's done an interview recently, and he said he's basically rushed himself back from injury to get back in that Liverpool team. But if he can stay fit, I've said this all along, if Konate can stay fit, then he's obviously Arne Slot's first choice. He'll get rested in the cup games, you'd imagine. In them same games that Trent will get rested, you'd imagine Konate will get rested as well. And Konate will play in the most important games, of course, because he's such an important centre-back for Liverpool, and he's been very impressive over the course of this season. And then the other conversation being Cody Gakpo, and there's also Jota, there's also Luis Diaz, there's also Darwin Núñez. So with Cody Gakpo, you'd want to be bringing in the Liverpool assets really this week as well. Ahead of the Ipswich at home game, you want to be having a triple with Liverpool. There's no point in waiting a week when you've got a fixture like that. And watching Ipswich get smashed the way that they did by Man City, I think it's the best choice to be bringing in a Liverpool attacking asset this week. A lot of conversation. Darwin Núñez, will he start in the double game week? I don't think he'll be starting both games personally. Luis Diaz, he was pretty disappointing against Brentford. He's kind of coming in and out of the side at the moment. Gakpo's been the mainstay in terms of starts. He started every single game week since game week 12. And I don't see him not starting the game against Ipswich. And also Liverpool do play in the Champions League. I think it's either tonight or tomorrow anyway, Tuesday or Wednesday night. This is where we can see it's going to be a rotator team for Liverpool. They're already basically through in the Champions League. So we're going to see who gets the minutes there. And that's where we can judge our transfers as for a Liverpool attacker. Who's going to be starting in that game in the Champions League? The chances are if they're starting in the Champions League, they probably won't start the game in the Premier League at the weekend. And I think Cody Gakpo will be rested. I think Gakpo is maybe the safest Liverpool attacker out of the lot. As I say, he started every week since game week 12. So I think it's, for an excitement point of view, my favourite three Liverpool players are Trent Alexander-Arnold at the back, Mo Salah, of course, in midfield, and now just go for Cody Gakpo up front and taking up a forward slot, which there isn't too many standout forwards right now in FPL. But let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.